So tell me more about this document that you found, the community supports meeting. Tell me the highlights of this document.
So this is a document that comes from the King County Executive's office and really provides the theoretical basis for the executive's plan to really just completely and permanently shut down the largest jail with no plans to replace it. And it basically looks kind of like a hybrid of a university lecture on critical race theory or a diversity training in kind of a very progressive company. But it has kind of a chart and a pyramid that says underneath the justice system are the thing that is foundational to the justice system in Seattle and in the United States is white racism, white supremacy, white fragility, and a whole other series of kind of the buzzwords that have been circulating lately. And then it goes up the pyramid, and then at some point they say, when criminal offenders offend, it's actually the fault of society, not that criminal offender. And the logic is, if you have a racist society that in essence forces people, especially people of color, to commit crimes, if you abolish the institutions of the carceral system, if you abolish the jails, if you abolish the police, if you abolish the municipal courts, those people will stop offending because their oppression has been lifted. And I mean, it's absurd. It doesn't work in practice at all, and gets the causality so skewed it's hard to even understand on logical grounds. But this is the kind of pseudo-scientific, kind of pseudo-academic nonsense that is driving the decision-making at the highest levels of government in Seattle and Portland and New York, elsewhere. And it's really shocking because they're really boiling down a very complex social problem, crime, to just, white people are evil, and they've set up these evil institutions that force people to do wrong, and their only solution, it's not reform at this point. For many years, it was about criminal justice reform. They've moved well beyond that in very rapid succession to do criminal justice abolition. And, my last thing I'd say is that you had 3 weeks ago cutting the police department 50%, this week cutting the jails by 60%. And my sources in city government are saying the next target is to get rid of the municipal courts almost altogether.
Jeez. And what do you have instead?
So they're basically saying that we are not going to prosecute or bring to the courts any misdemeanors, and will bump up felonies to the county court system. So they're really looking to essentially eliminate criminal penalties in the criminal process for, really the vast majority of crimes, and only prosecute the most serious crimes, the most violent crimes at the county level. So this is something that I had heard rumblings about 2 years ago. Activists were agitating, but I was told this is something that is far-fetched. It's not going to happen. It's just a few people. But it's very quickly capitalizing on the chaos of the coronavirus shutdown, capitalizing on the death of George Floyd. These are people who have been laying the groundwork for years, and now they're really seizing this opportunity to push forward. And unfortunately, when you shut down the jails, you fire 50% of your cops, and you abolish the courts, those are almost irreversible decisions. So it really is a very dangerous period for these cities.
What are the business owners saying? Because at some point, even the most liberal business owner has got to say, wait. Somebody comes in and shoplifts. Somebody comes in and does something in my store. I've got to have some police.
Yeah, I mean, business owners are apoplectic. They have been fighting kind of headwinds in Seattle for many years. And it really started with kind of economic policies, taxes, minimum wage. Those are kind of your traditional business versus labor fights, right? These have been the kind of mainstream battleground between business and labor organizations. And there was a sense, looking back in retrospect, a naive sense that, this is really as bad as they can make it. They can raise the minimum wage. They can put in kind of onerous scheduling laws. They can increase the property taxes on business owners. But now business owners are finding themselves in a real whole new terrain. I know that in downtown Seattle right now, there are entire blocks that have been boarded up for 2 months. I mean, businesses that are saying, the risk of getting looted, the risk of getting ransacked, the risk of getting burned down is a greater risk than just shutting down and going to zero revenue for the foreseeable future. So
Jeez.
This is really catastrophic. And the business trade groups, they're predicting that maybe up to 50% of all restaurants in downtown Seattle may never come back. So this is a really frightening thing. And then if they do come back and there are 50% of the police officers on the street, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. And my friends and sources within the police department say if these cuts go forward, they're going to have no proactive policing, and they're going to have a limited number of officers basically bouncing from emergency call to emergency call to emergency call. And it could be sometimes up to 2 hours before an officer can show up at the scene of a crime.
Real quick, because I have to take a network break. Is there any chance that the chief of police runs for higher office? I mean, she seems to be striking a chord with a lot of people where she's just coming out, she's apologizing and saying, look, I have nothing to do with this. In Seattle, you're on your own. I wish I could help. But I can't. Is she looked on as reasonable or not reasonable?
She's looked on as very reasonable, and I think what's happening is increasingly, Chief of Police Carmen Best, she's a longtime SPD officer, moved up the ranks and is now chief. She's seen as the only thing standing between the city and the mob. I mean, she's really the last kind of bastion of hope for the city of Seattle. And I know that rank and file officers, as well as some of the political power brokers who are in the more kind of center-left moderate camp, they're encouraging her to consider a run. The mayor's race is next year. It's an off-year election. And I think that she can run on a very clear platform as standing up to the mob, standing up to the radicals. And, I, for one, absolutely hope that she considers it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Chris. And thank you for all of your hard work and being places that none of us want to be. Thank you. Christopher Rufo.